Alright, so we did a couple good ones, now let's do a bad one. Because we have seen a bunch of rumors this week for people that may be cast in specific roles in the MCU X-Men reboot. We don't know very much about this movie, we don't know specifically which characters are going to be in it, but you can kind of assume that it's going to be some core group of X-Men, and it's going to be characters that are usually on that team. We don't know who the villain is, we got none of that. You can maybe assume that a character in Spider-Man Brand New Day may secretly be one of the X-Men, and if that's the case, then you got that one. We had some rumors today that Odessa Azion and Peter Claffey were both up for the roles of Rogue and Beast, respectively. Those are interesting. Then we're by Scooper, Jeff Snyder, who seems to know what he's talking about, and I think we're going to see a lot of these in the future. And I'm not only going to talk about the ones that I think are great, or at least really, really interesting, I'm talking about all of them, like this one. This one came from my time to shine on Twitter, which means they're less reliable. I was trying to go through some of their old tweets to just find some old scoops about things and go well, that didn't happen. A lot of stuff about betting markets and polymarket and stuff, so that's great. But okay, so what they're claiming, and what I saw all over the internet today. So this isn't just I found this one little thing. This is a trending story on Twitter. And it would suggest that Emma Frost is going to be a main character in one of these X-Men movies eventually. And in that movie, she is going to be played by Sydney Sweeney. Now, first of all, bad. Second of all, don't worry, because I also don't think this is true. But I want to talk about why I don't think she's right for this role, and then throw out some other actors who I think might be right for the role that she's in for. Because when I did my casting the X-Men videos, 5 years ago, I talked about Emma Frost, but I cast an adult Emma Frost, a slightly older Emma Frost. And it was Vanessa Kirby who ended up obviously being Sue Storm. I still think she would be a perfect Emma Frost if she wanted to. But that's a different version of the character, right? She would fit into the original, the Gen 1 X-Men movies with an adult Cyclops, an adult Wolverine. However, based on the casting rumors that we've been hearing, it does seem like the X-Men are going to be younger, under 30, let's say. Maybe the main team will be college age. And Sydney Sweeney as an Emma Frost would be part of that class of characters. Not necessarily an X-Men in that movie, but maybe she would be a villain, but she would also be in her 20s. Now, again, there is no guarantee that Emma Frost is in this movie. I would say the odds of her being in the movie are less than half. Just because she's not a core X-Men member. She's not one of the characters that people need to see. And she's not one of the fan favorite characters like Gambit, who big fans want to see. There are a lot of comic fans and people that play these games now that I do think really like Emma Frost, but I don't think she's got the same pull as a Storm or a Nightcrawler, even though in the world of the X-Men comics, especially recently, she has been a really big player. And I think her arc is very interesting. I made a whole video about it back when she got added to Marvel Rivals, about why I think Emma Frost is such a compelling character. And I think there's something there for a movie, but I don't think it's likely that she's in this X-Men movie, but even if she is played by Sydney Sweeney, I think either Sydney Sweeney is going to have to give a performance that is unlike anything she's really ever done, or the movie's in trouble. Because Emma Frost is supposed to be, and this is very clear, especially if you can hear her, right? Any of the cartoons she's been in, or how she speaks in the video game, very high class, right? She's got a very elevated personality, view of herself. Also, my cat Mortimer is on my lap. He likes Emma Frost because Emma Frost loves Jeff the Land Shark. He's not only her baby, but she is one of his moms, and I think that relationship is cute. Humanizes Emma, and I like Jeff the Land Shark. But yeah, Emma Frost kind of conceded, but her whole deal is I act like I'm better than everybody else because I am. Not just because I'm a mutant, but because I'm me, Emma Frost. She can read minds, so she is good at manipulating people. Besides just being able to control minds, she can read what people are thinking, and she has this weird secondary mutation that turns her into a diamond. So it's again, associated with jewelry, things that are fancy, expensive, right? Emma Frost in the movies is played by January Jones, mostly. There were other versions of her that showed up, but for the most part, January Jones was the Emma Frost. And I think you could see what they were going for there. If anything, the problem with her is she didn't have enough personality. I brought this up on Twitter. I can't remember why. And there's that one scene in X-Men First Class where it looks like Emma is making out with the Russian general or something. And then we kind of pan over and we see actual Emma is just sitting there in a different part of the room. And what's happening is she is making the general think that that's what's happening. She's making him think that he's hooking up with her, but he's not. And what I thought about that was it's okay, but it needs more something. Emma has to be bored by this. Like, I think she's either polishing her nails, building a house of cards, reading a book or something, because like so many of these things, it would seem so incredible. Oh my god, she's controlling someone's mind, and it's like, yeah, whatever, she's Emma Frost, of course she could do that. That's not that exciting for her. She's a fascinating character. I really do think she's great. Now, really, I'd say there's like one obvious reason people like Sydney Sweeney for this role, and then a bunch of reasons why I don't think she'd work. The reason people like her for the role is she is like a young, hot actor who has big boobs, and Emma Frost traditionally has big boobs. She's blonde. You know, that Emma Frost isn't always blonde, because now there's like a secret black clone of Emma Frost. I mean, she's Black Diamond. It's like a different character now, but like, we could do Black Emma Frost if we wanted. But, you know, because of like the way she looks, I think that Sydney Sweeney gets fan casted a lot in a lot of things. Everybody wants her to be Black Cat in Spider-Man movies. Sometimes if the character's like dressed very provocatively, people think, oh, this might be good for Sydney Sweeney, even though like all comics women are built pretty much the same way. Like Rogue, Jean, Storm, and Emma Frost all have pretty much the same body type. Emma's the only one who acts like she does out of that group. Rogue does a little bit too, but like Emma makes it a big part of her personality. But like hypothetically, the idea that Sydney Sweeney has that body type should mean she could play any of these guys. She's also blonde, you know, so there's that. But really, that's it. Like, I don't think there's anything she's ever done that has made me go, oh, she'd be good for Emma Frost. And I'd say the main criticism, and I don't even think she's a terrible actor, is Sydney Sweeney. Obviously, like, politically, she's complicated in that she is probably a Republican, but doesn't want to admit that because she's on a show that has a very progressive fan base, and she doesn't want to alienate them, and she doesn't want to alienate anybody because she wants, you know, to be successful and make money. I get that, but like, forget about that for a second. We want to talk about the movies she's in, because I feel like there was a narrative last year around the time that Christie movie came out that Sydney Sweeney's in all kinds of bombs, and I would say that's like somewhat true, but I don't think that necessarily correlates with how successful she is in the movies. And B, I think there are movies that she's in that do quite well, and that would sort of suggest where I think her lane is, and it's not the Emma Frost lane. Because yeah, she's taking some shots at some biopics. She's in that reality movie, which according to Rotten Tomatoes right now is her highest ranked Rotten Tomatoes movie. You know, she was obviously in that Christie biopic, so she is trying to do like serious roles with substance, perhaps to maybe get an Oscar or something. Like, I respect that about her. And then she was in Madam Web, a movie I love because it's terrible in an amazing way. She was in a movie called Americana that didn't get very much attention. She was in a movie called Eden that I think was quite bad. She was in Immaculate, that movie that's pretty much Rosemary's Baby, but with like a nun. The movie was fine. I would say she's been in 2 big hits, and I'm talking like, not necessarily like big hits like Avatar or whatever, but like big hits like they performed well in box office. Their reviews were pretty positive. People liked them. The first one was that Anyone But You movie, that like Much Ado About Nothing, but in the real world, and her and Glenn Powell, they don't like each other, but they kind of learn to like each other. I found that movie quite irritating. I think she's fine in it. Now, a lot of people like that movie. The other movie that was very successful was The Housemaid, and I think she was fine in that too. I think the movie is actually pretty good, and it's mostly because of Amanda Seyfried doing everything. But like, Sydney Sweeney's not doing a bad job there. But those 2 roles, right? Anyone But You and The Housemaid, those 2 that I think are the most successful. And then you could say, you know, Euphoria, the show she is mostly known for, or the first season of White Lotus, the other show she is mostly known for. In all of those cases, Sydney Sweeney plays a girl next door kind of person. She is supposed to feel relatable and human. Like in The Housemaid, she's supposed to read, especially early in the movie, as sort of plain. You know, Anyone But You sets her up early as being sort of a klutz, right? I would say like comedies like Anyone But You, or, you know, however you would classify The Housemaid, movies like that where Sydney Sweeney's supposed to be playing someone who is not at a particularly high status. She's still obviously very attractive, and like, she's not a dumb character necessarily, but there is always another character in those movies that is the one that has it all together. In Anyone But You, it's Glenn Powell's Australian ex-girlfriend, and in The Housemaid, it's Amanda Seyfried until it's not. But like, the way the movie is set up, Amanda Seyfried's character has it together. I think Sydney Sweeney works as kind of unassuming, right? Roles like that. What you want for an Emma Frost is that second person. You want Glenn Powell's ex-girlfriend. You want Amanda Seyfried, the mom in that movie. And that is really where I think this should begin and end. This conversation is just this idea that I don't think Sydney Sweeney has proven that she can play an Emma Frost type. I don't think she needs to be an X-Man at all. But if we had to pick an X-Man for her, I don't know, maybe like Boom Boom, Maybe Dazzler, although I don't feel like I've seen Dazzler from her either. You know, like Domino, she could maybe do Domino. If I thought she could do the accent, like, I wouldn't hate her as a rogue. I will say the movie that I have seen that really makes me go like, no, absolutely not, is a movie called Eden. This came out last year, maybe the year before, I can't remember. It's a story, I believe it's based on a book or a true story, about a family that goes to live in the jungle because some other guy did that, and she is part of the family that is going to the jungle, so kind of doesn't know what they're in for. And she plays a German woman or something. This is the only role I could find where she's actually like fully done an accent, and it doesn't work. A lot of things about the movie don't work, but I do think Emma Frost like has a specific accent. That is part of her character. Is she sort of, I can't remember the name of the character, but like copied the mind of a classmate of hers and sort of picked up that classmate's English accent, which is why it sort of seems like she has an English accent. But again, that doesn't seem like something Sydney Sweeney would be good at either. Sydney Sweeney plays a, down-home American girl, right? Like, she does not play transatlantic. That's not the vibe she gives off. But yeah, like, Sydney Sweeney characters are interesting when they don't have it together, and Emma Frost needs to, for the most part, seem to have it together. And that is why I just don't think she's the right fit for that role. People have wondered, well, who should play Emma Frost? Let's say we're going for around that same age. If I could pick one person right now, well, actually, there's a couple. I think, as much as I would love her to play Magic in the future, I think Anya Taylor-Joy would actually be a really good Emma Frost. And I think you can kind of see the difference between those two actors, right? Like, Anya Taylor-Joy does have an air of fanciness to her. And yeah, she has range. She can do a lot of different things. But, like, I think she could play that role. The other person that I see brought up a lot that I actually think would be great is Elle Fanning. I think Elle Fanning would be perfect right now if we're doing 20s Emma Frost. She's just about to play a new version of Effie in the Hunger Games prequel movie, and I feel like that is a very Emma Frost-coded character. The other actor that I hear brought up a lot is Samara Weaving. Now, Samara Weaving is interesting because I do think she's got it. I have not seen a movie that has made the case for Samara Weaving as an Emma Frost type, but in interviews, I've really gotten that sense for her. Like, not to say she feels like a, fake upper class, like, thinks she's better than everybody. Samara Weaving had a pretty small role in Babylon, but I think that maybe is the closest I can think of to an Emma Frost-like role. Obviously, she's blonde, and I don't think it really matters if these people are blonde. Wigs exist, and a lot of these people wear wigs. But I don't know, it's hard to put into words exactly why I think Samara Weaving would work, because I do think she would work, even though this is not what she usually plays. I don't know, maybe there's something I'm forgetting. Babysitter, Ready or Not, I never saw the Scream movie she's in. I guess in Babysitter, she is playing a character who is part of a ritual or a cult or something. I can't remember. I saw that movie a while ago, but she is in charge of it. Emma's supposed to be in charge. She gives orders. People take her seriously. People listen to her. You could look at a lot of blonde actors, like a Jodie Comer or something like that. Sure, she'd be a good Emma Frost. Like, I think there's a lot of good Emma Frosts out there, and I think Sydney Sweeney, she's a fine actor. I think she could maybe be another X-Men. Like I said, Boom Boom is a good example, one that I think could work. I don't know, maybe Domino or something. But it feels pretty clear to me that Sydney Sweeney should not be playing Emma Frost. And Sydney Sweeney has plenty of opportunities to prove me wrong. She's got a lot of very interesting projects coming up. She's in the Gundam movie. Curious to see how that plays. She's in that Split Fiction movie, although I do think in that case she is supposed to be the kind of relatable writer who gets trapped in the virtual reality world or whatever. Speaking of being trapped in like a alternate dimension, virtual reality, stuff like that, that reminds me of a show, a great show, called The Twilight Zone. I don't know if you've ever seen that Twilight Zone show. They rebooted it recently with Jordan Peele, and it was weird. It was like, instead of a monster on the plane, it was a podcast on a plane. But I did not know very much about the person who invented The Twilight Zone, a man named Rod Serling, until I watched a video by Captain Midnight, and it's part of a series called Showrunners. And in this series, Captain Midnight goes through a bunch of different people responsible for creating iconic television shows, talks about what brought them to that point, how their personality affected the show. But I don't know, learning about Rod Serling and some of the censorship he had to deal with, it adds something interesting to the story of The Twilight Zone. If you want to watch that video, along with tons of other videos, early and ad-free, check out this video's sponsor, Nebula. Nebula is, say it with me, a subscription streaming service that I and a bunch of other really cool people helped create. Nebula has evolved so much over the last 7 years. Sure, you can still watch all my videos early and ad-free. You can watch videos by a bunch of other creators you probably already love. But one of the most exciting things about Nebula is our original programming. Tom Scott has a new series called England, where he goes to every English county to find something interesting. Did you check out this first episode where Tom Scott goes to Leicestershire and he visits a bell making factory? You see the entire process, learn how bells are made, and it is not how you would expect, especially since this bell making factory is hundreds of years old and they're still working with some of the same techniques from a century ago. Tom Scott even gets to use a sledgehammer to break one of the bells a little, because shockingly, it's hard to do. It's hard to use a sledgehammer to break an enormous bell. And each episode of England is going to be on Nebula for a week before it goes anywhere else. On top of that, we got a series that I love watching called Abolish Everything, where someone, maybe a comedian, maybe another YouTuber, makes an argument for something that should be abolished. They state their case, they make a very funny PowerPoint, the political establishment gets to weigh in, and then the audience decides what deserves to actually be abolished. This week they did the championship for the second season. They had a ton of really funny people on it. I've never been on that show, maybe sometime in the future. I think I'd be a fun abolitionist. And then later this year, although hopefully not too much later, Nebula's first original dramatic scripted series, Subliminal, comes out with the episode that I wrote, which I cannot wait for you guys to watch. Nebula is the best way to support all of the creators you already love and all the creators you don't know you're gonna love, but then you're gonna love them when you see them on Nebula. You can also download the videos to your phone, which saves you data when you're not at home. And there are not AI videos on Nebula, so this isn't gonna be like YouTube where you go on and you watch a video in a minute or two and you're like, something's off here, and then you realize like, oh, this video is AI. Which happens on YouTube and other platforms way more than I would like to admit. Nebula, we all got real stuff made by real creators, and that's why it's great. And a year of Nebula is already a steal at $60 a year, $5 a month. But if you go to go.nebula.tv/thenandocut, you can get a year of Nebula for just $30. That is $2.50 a month. It is an amazing deal. Again, go to go.nebula.tv/thenandocut to check it out. All right, that's all I got. Stay safe. I'll see you next time.